Welcome back to another episode of the First Responder Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Conrad Weaver. I'm so glad you're here today. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever battled hesitation, overthinking, or self-doubt, especially if you're a first responder. My guest, Neil Schoepp, spent over 2 decades in New York City's police and fire departments. Now he's on a mission to help others eliminate hesitation and start living intentionally. You don't want to miss the strategies and stories in this episode, so let's dive right in. Well, Neil, welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
It's great to be here, Conrad. How are you?
I'm good. You know, you have a history of being in the as a first responder, as a firefighter, as a police officer, and you are working on and teaching things about something that I think many of us struggle with, and that's hesitation.
Yes.
Why did you make that a focus of your work?
I made it a focus of my work because at work, I wasn't hesitating, right? Like in the police and the fire realm, you literally cannot hesitate. And when I retired and I came out into, we'll call it the civilian world, in my personal life, I was overthinking everything. Like I would overthink buying a mouse for my computer. Like it was crazy. And I finally put kind of one on one together, and I then started instituting why I wasn't hesitating on the fire ground. And I brought that over to my personal life. And all of a sudden things just started falling into place.
Do you think that's something common with a lot of people, that we second guess ourselves?
We second guess ourselves all the time. I know I do. I still do. Like I'm the guy that talks about killing hesitation, right? I'm the guy that talks about stop overthinking, start executing. And it's a constant battle that I have to take on. And if I'm doing it in a very intentional way, then if you don't have like the tools to combat it, you just get stuck in that program. You're on the hamster.
So talk about your experience as a first responder. You talked about you just get out there and do the thing. So you're on the fire ground and you just act, right? So what made that different than your normal day-to-day life where you tend to second guess things?
Well, I think on the fire ground, it is literal life and death.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And in your personal life, it's more just a story you're telling yourself. So that's the primary thing. The other thing is with hesitation, if you're attacking it intentionally, you can battle through it. You can identify that you're hesitating. And in that identification, you can then start changing things. What I did was I started changing my default thought process. And in doing that, I was able to literally take what I learned on the fire ground and in PD and bring it over to the civilian life. I'll give you the perfect example. I didn't realize this, obviously, at the time until I started going into hesitation and then thinking about stories that have happened to me and realizing, oh, that's why, that was my first lesson. That's why I didn't hesitate. And one of the first lessons goes all the way back to the 1990s when I was in the police department. I had this suspect that I was talking to. He was going to be placed under arrest. I was kind of trying to finagle my way through it, right? Because I was really new. I was a rookie at the time. And one of the senior men came over my shoulder and just cold cocked this guy and laid him out. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he picks up the knife and he hands it to me. And he says, I'm saving your life. Because I was hesitating, because I didn't take the whole scene into account, because I had that little bit of tunnel vision, because I was afraid of ruffling feathers, because I was new and I wanted to act in political correctness. There was a lot of hesitation there, and that hesitation could have cost me my life. And that was one of the first lessons I learned about hesitation. And if I can bring what I learned from PD and FD into my civilian life, and now I don't hesitate as much, and I can bring that now out to the public and create freedom thinkers, what I call freedom thinkers, you're going to change the world. Like, people are going to change how they operate, and they're going to live much more intentionally and a much more fulfilled life.
Do you think sometimes as first responders, there can be a danger to just acting, whereas maybe the consequences are a little more severe than if you check yourself for a minute?
So I think we always check ourselves as first responders, police and fire departments specifically. I think we always check ourselves. We're just doing it on a subconscious level. And if we can that's another part of just bringing automaticity to our lives. There's a lot of things that we do, or that I did on the fireground, or that I did when I was walking that foot post or riding in that radio car. There were things that I automatically did. And if we can bring those things over to our personal lives, doing things automatically without even realizing it, we could change that program. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So how did that automation happen? Was that just from the repeated training, going at this over and over again, where it just became a normal thing?
Yes, essentially that's exactly what it is. It's that repetition. So when I was in PD, I could just look at a license plate for a half a second, and I could memorize that license plate. I can't do that anymore now. Like, I can get 3 or 4 digits down, but I can't get the whole license plate down, the state, the make and model of the car. And it's because when I was riding around in an RMP, or I was on a foot post, I would look at cars, I would look at license plates, and I would scan at a license plate. I'd come back and I'd be like, what's that license plate? And I'd try to repeat it. And in the beginning, I never got it right. But as I did that more and more and more, imagine doing that 100 times a day. So through that repetition, through that visualization, you gain skill sets. And as a first responder, we have a lot of skill sets that actually overlap in the personal development world. We just don't realize that they do. Visualization is one of them. Like, everybody says, like, visualization. When I say visualization to you, you think, oh, woo-woo, we can't do that, like all fruits and flowers and stuff. No, you visualize as a first responder, you visualize constantly. If you're a police officer, you're visualizing, if this happens, I'm going to have cover there. That's concealment over there. This is cover. I'm going to go to cover. If I have to close this, it's between here and that point. I'm going to do it by using cover there, and there. There's not one police officer that sits in a restaurant and his back is to the door. Nobody does it. It's just instinctual. Even in their private lives, when they go out with their wife to have dinner, they sit with their back to the wall. It's just something that happens. So we can bring those things over to our personal life and start visualizing in our personal life the same way we visualize in the fire department and in the police department. Things start falling into place. The puzzle pieces, it's like turning a puzzle piece, and then all of a sudden it falls into place. And you're like, wow, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What causes first responders to hesitate and to overthink?
I think that it's human nature, because our subconscious mind is there to keep us safe. Like, our mind is just there to preserve our being, for survival. That's what our subconscious does. And in doing that, we start really paying attention to whatever the negatives can be. Do you know what the difference between excitement and fear is? Physiologically, it's the same thing. Right? Increased heart rate, we start breathing differently, sweaty palms, The difference is the story that we're telling ourselves. We get to that point, that crossroads, and if we're in that dark alley and there's a shadowy figure standing by the dumpster or in the doorway, we tell ourselves one story. But if we're at a party, we tell ourselves a different story. But emotionally, like on the inside, our body's feeling and doing the same thing until we get to that crossroads. And then we get to make the choice of what that intel is telling us. So what story do you choose to tell yourself?
So what's the danger? This is kind of a rhetorical question, but what's the danger for a fireman to overthink?
Oh, it's death, right? In the most, it's death. It can be embarrassment. I got a really good story about how I just got to a fire company, and I was in the FDNY, and there's a rule in the fire department that if you have the roof position, the man that has to go up to the roof, you must make that position because you're the eyes for the chief around the entire building. I'm the only person on the fire ground essentially that can see all 4 exposures on the building. I can see if somebody's hanging out the back. Like, I'm going to get to the roof first, and I'm going to be the first set of eyes, 360 degrees. And I was in the bucket. The bucket takes a long time to get up to the roof. I was in the bucket, and I'm looking up, and there's fire like right at the window on the top floor. And I'm like, if this bucket takes too long, the fire is going to come out of that window, and I'm not going to make the roof. And then there's going to be a lot of ball breaking that goes on when I get back to the firehouse. And I was new to the company, so other companies were going to kind of throw shots at my company also. So I had to make a decision in that split second. And the decision I made was I jumped down off the bucket. And when I jumped down off the bucket, I ran around the corner. I took the stick up, which is just the aerial ladder. I took the stick up to the roof. I made the roof. Everything was all right. But if I would have hesitated in that moment, the roof would have never got vented. The guys that were working, the engine working on the inside, would have had a hell of a lot more difficulty in making that push. It would have been a lot hotter. So in me making that roof, I made the job go a little bit more smoothly. That's it in a nutshell. Like, if you hesitate, should I stretch a line? Shouldn't I stretch a line? Should I stretch a line to the front of the building or to the back of the building? Where am I? Like, what exposure am I stretching to? Should I skip? In New York City, we have row houses. If the fire is in one house, we may skip the house directly to the right and go down to the next house and give up that exposure just because we don't want to lose the entire block. So making those split-second decisions, if you don't make the right decision, like, you can lose an entire block. So that's you can't hesitate. It's something that you hesitate and it's going to turn bad.
And that's where your training kicks in, and you do the things that you've been trained, that you've worked over and over again to do.
Yes.
Well, we don't have that necessarily, that privilege or that thing in our natural life. You haven't trained to buy that mouse,
Right.
And so how can you train yourself to make those good decisions on the spur of the moment?
So you just the first step is just becoming aware of that you're actually overthinking. You don't even realize it because you're in that automatic behavior. This is what I do. No, like, slow things down. When you slow things down and you're intentional about paying attention to what's going on around you, you can then identify, oh, I am overthinking this. So in our natural everyday lives, we can literally train the same way I would train in the fire department or in the police department. And what I mean by that is by using visualization. Because in our everyday lives, when we slow down and we start paying attention to the different things that are happening, those thoughts, our self-talk that pops up that says we can't do something, We can combat that now. This is air, my technique, air, in its essence. You're just becoming aware of that thought that you're having. And when you become aware of that thought that you're having, you can actually determine whether the thought's serving you or not. And if it's not serving you, you didn't change it. You flip it 180 degrees. And I can't becomes I can. I'm not becomes I will. Right? And when you do that, you start telling your brain, I'm choosing to think this way. 60,000 thoughts a day. The National Science Foundation came out with a study, 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those thoughts are negative. 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. So if we're repeating 95% of our thoughts and 80% of those thoughts are negative, we're just in that natural negative cycle. Becoming aware of that by slowing things down, by paying attention to things. I got something your listeners could do right this second. While they're actually listening to this, even if they're driving down the highway, just look at something and call it out. It's Shisa Kanko. It's a Japanese philosophy that is point and call. They would point to things on their rail system. They were having a lot of problems in their rail system with accidents. So they instituted Shisa Kanko, and they would point at the red signal and say, red, stop. The conductors on the platforms would look. The left is clear, the right is clear, the platform is clear, we may go, as opposed to just closing the doors and going. 85% reduction in accidents almost overnight.
Wow.
So if you're doing that in your everyday life, right? If you're walking down the sidewalk, and I don't propose you do this out loud, right? Because they'll be taking you to the loony bin. But walking down the sidewalk and being like, stop sign, dog. Like, I could do it right now, right? Doorway, desk, laptop, man, light. And just, it sounds silly, but as you start doing those things, you start automatically doing those things. And then when that thought comes up, you're more apt to recognize that the thought's actually there, right? 95% are negative, 95% are repetitive. The problem is it's happening automatically and we don't even realize it. So we have to slow our nervous system down. Point and call, right? Meditation's another good one. Just living more presently. And we can identify those thought patterns, and then we could start changing those thought patterns, right? I became aware of the thought. I interrupt the thought. Thank you very much. But I'm going to choose to think this. And then I just change that. I turn that thought on its head, 180 degrees is the easiest way to do it. A more advanced technique is using what if. I can't invest in the stock market. I always lose money. What if I made money? Right? I can't start a business. I don't know what I'm doing. What if I did know what I was doing? I can't retire. What am I going to do with myself? What if I knew what to do with myself? So just flipping the story that you're telling yourself is how I start out with breaking that hesitation that we all have and becoming aware of it. There's plenty of times that I become aware that I'm overthinking things. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just overthinking this. I'm going to take this action. And that's what I work on with like my clients and with me myself. Remember, I'm one of the biggest overthinkers in the world. So I have to do this continuously myself.
You know, that's a powerful thing. And you called that Japanese word was, what was it again?
Shisa Kanko.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up and see how to spell that. But that's a powerful thing. And I've actually seen video footage of, so my wife and I watch these YouTube videos, and we watch a lot of travel videos, and there's some people that went on a Japanese train, and literally I saw them do that. The conductors pointing, they would point one way and then they would point the other way. And then the train was released to go. It was like, that's interesting that they're doing that. So that makes sense now.
Yes. That's why they were doing it. They were getting there were a lot of accidents, and predominantly a lot of people getting stuck indoors, and then the train would go and people were getting hurt. And 85%, you can't argue with the data of almost overnight an 85% reduction in instances, because they weren't working from autopilot anymore. They weren't just doing it. We spend 50% of our day in autopilot. And if you don't believe that, somebody that doesn't believe that stat, think about a time you were on the highway and you drove past 2 or 3 exits and you don't even remember passing the 2 or 3 exits. Yep. Or you drove home and you don't remember passing the gas station or the supermarket, or turning out of work, or turning into your block. Or, like, we live so much of our time in automaticity, autopilot, that we don't even realize we're doing things. And that's why the first step is like living more presently, living more intentionally, so that we can identify what's going on, and then we can work on that specific element or challenge.
I think that is so vital for healthy living. I mean, think of all the even car accidents we could avoid and not be involved in if we were more present. And these days, we're all tethered to one of these things, and which totally disconnects us. The inventors were like, "Oh, we'll all be connected." Nah, we'll all be less connected. And so we become less aware of our surroundings. I mean, we've all seen the video of the guy, doing this and texting and falling into the water fountain, right?
Yes.
And we've all seen that kind of thing. And so when we are so not present, and a few episodes ago, one of my guests said, be where your feet are.
Yes.
And that is so powerful. When we are actually take time to be present, to be aware, one, we'll have a better life. Two, we'll be a better human being.
Yes.
Hey, for the past several months, I've been enjoying using the TrainWell program for my daily workouts. I used to be really inconsistent with working out, and often I didn't know what to do next to achieve the results I wanted. I felt stuck. TrainWell has solved that problem for me. So if you would like your own personal trainer to guide you, it's actually really easy. Visit go.trainwell.net/firstresponder-wellness. That's go.trainwell.net/firstresponder-wellness, and start your journey to a better you. If I can do it, I know you can too. Hey, the link is below in the show notes.
That's how it works. And it's just those small incremental, like, this doesn't happen overnight, right? Like, I just explained to you, right? Like Shisa Kanko, right? Become aware of your thought, interrupt that thought, thank it for its service. I know you're just trying to keep me safe, but I'm going to choose to go in this direction. And that's important. I'm going to choose to think this, because you're giving the subconscious a direction. You're giving it a command. You're actually rewriting the line of code that it's following. I'm going to choose to think this, and then changing that thought. We just went through all of that. Some of your listeners are going to be really excited. They're going to be like, yes, I finally got something I can use. I have a tool in my pocket. And then they're going to have a thought. It's going to be that negative thought. I can't do that for whatever reason, right? But they're not going to realize it. And it's going to be a couple of hours later or the next day. Remember, you could still institute it then, right? So I had this negative thought on Monday. I don't realize it until Tuesday. Run the script I just told you. Okay, you became aware of it. Interrupt it, kick it to the side, thank it for its service. I choose to think this, and turn the thought 180 degrees. That's how it starts. It's going to start 24 hours out. And then it's going to be 6 hours out. And then it's going to be during the conversation. And then the magic's really going to happen, and it's going to be automatic. We're training ourselves to tap into that automaticity that we're already using. It's just that we're using society's automaticity. We're using stories that we were told when we were 6 and 7 years old. We're not using the stories that we want to write into that. And this is how you start rewriting it. This is how you start changing the program.
So you're kind of rewriting that story loop, because we all live in these story loops, right? And, I can see that being a powerful tool for someone caught in some kind of addiction, alcohol, pornography, whatever it is. When that idea comes, I'm just going to have one more drink. No, I recognize that thought, but I choose to not do that.
Yes.
I choose to do this instead. You do that often enough with any kind of habit, then you begin, like you said, it becomes automatic.
I read a story once about smoking, and it went as, if somebody asks you, they say, "You want a cigarette?" You don't say, "No, thank you, I'm trying to quit," or "No, thank you, I'm quitting." You say, "No, thank you, I don't smoke."
Right.
It's a very nuance in the words that you're using, but you're actually speaking your truth. You're speaking what your identity is. And this is the identity that I'm stepping into. It's when, like that's imposter syndrome. You use the same philosophy when people feel that imposter syndrome, right? Everybody feels imposter syndrome at some point in time. No, I am a parent, right? I am a police officer. I am a fireman. Whatever the role is, I am a supervisor. We have a lot of cops and firemen, EMS, right? You take promotions. Now you're the supervisor, and you're like, I took a test, and now I'm a supervisor. Like, what makes me a supervisor? That's how I felt. When I got promoted, I felt like I was a fish out of water, a turtle on its shell. Like, oh my Lord, like I'm actually like the guy. I can't, as a fireman, you would look at the boss, right? But now I'm the boss. So now everybody's looking at you and you're like, well, hold on a second. I have to make the decisions now. It's a different world, but you just have to speak your truth. I am the lieutenant. I got this. I can handle this. What would other lieutenants, what would like my prior lieutenants and captains and chiefs do? And just make decisions through their lens.
It's that whole mind shift, mind change, mindset rewiring that is, and it's powerful. I've seen it in my own life, how that has transformed me. I mean, when I was young, in my growing up years, middle school, high school, I stammered terribly. There was things I couldn't even read out loud because I would stammer so much. And it took me a lot of work to overcome that. One was just to slow down my talking, where my mouth can keep up with my brain.
Yes.
The second was a mindset. Back then I was in the mindset that I stammer. I'm a stutterer. I am this, right? And so I was owning that. Well, it took me some time, and sometimes it still crops up, but I am not a person who stutters now.
Right.
I mean, I'm a person who speaks on a podcast every week. I speak to people, large crowds that come for my film, and I'm a speaker. And in fact, I'm taking speaking training with the John Maxwell team right now to become a certified speaker with the John Maxwell team, which is amazing. And it's all in my mind. It's all my mindset.
Yes. You're living proof. Like that's a beautiful. Would you have ever thought that you'd be on a stage speaking in front of a group of individuals back when you were a teenager stuttering?
I have to say this, that back then, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but I used to imagine myself doing that.
Yes.
I imagined it in my head that one day I'm going to stand on stages speaking to people.
And that's the visualization component. The reason why visualization is called woo-woo and it gets a bad rap is because there are people that believe all I have to do is think that and it'll happen. Manifestation. All I got to do is think it and it'll happen. No. It's visualization with actually taking action. You have to take the action. The visualization just tells your reticular activating system what to pay attention to and what life looks like.
Yeah. And then when you pay attention to those things, Greg Kerschel says in his book, our life moves in the direction of our strongest thoughts.
Yes.
So when I visualize that, where I want to go and what I want to achieve, and then I begin to make those steps toward that as I think about those things.
And doors start opening up for you because you're speaking that truth.
Yeah.
People want to help you. People want to see you successful. People want to see you level up. There's not one successful person that I've come across that hasn't given me advice, assistance, support when I was serious, when I actually had the commitment. And you could tell when somebody's like all in and when somebody's just dipping their toe in the water. Successful people won't give you the time of day when you're dipping your toe in the water. But when you make that commitment, they're all in. They want to see you level up and surpass them. Like all of my mentors have said the same. Like, I want to see you just go out there and crush it.
This is a powerful message. And if people would really listen and adapt this, and this is something that I've had to work on over the last number of years, to adapt this new way of thinking, new way of doing and accomplishing things. Man, what we can accomplish in our lifetime is amazing when we have this kind of mindset. So speak to that fireman out there, that firefighter, that medic, that person that's out there thinking, I just don't know if I can. Yeah, I want to advance in my company. I want to advance in, become a captain or whatever, whatever the next step is, but I'm struggling with that. How can I get there? How can I get to a leadership position? How can I be a better person? What's a good first step toward rethinking that and rethinking, where we want to go?
I'm looking down at my phone, Conrad, because a buddy of mine just sent this to me. And it's just a picture. He was walking down the street and he saw this picture and it says, "Is your routine building your future or just maintaining your past?" And I asked that fireman, that cop, that paramedic, that EMT, the corrections officer, whoever may be listening, is your routine building your future or maintaining your past? And if you want to build your future, then you have to change your routine. And how do you change your routine? Use an air, right? You study Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg wrote a book, Tiny Habits, and he literally wrote the book on changing your behavior. A lot of the stuff that I talk about, that I incorporate into my own life and with my clients, comes from BJ. He's an amazing individual. Wrote a book, like he heads the behavioral lab at Stanford University. And just, are you living congruent to where you want to go? Or you just kind of staying stagnant? And that routine of yours is just maintaining that comfortability, right? I will leave him with this one last thought. Past, present, and future. We are all in our present spot right now. I'm on this podcast because of a past action that I took, right? I'm on this podcast because of a past action you took. The listeners are listening to this because of a past action they took. They chose to listen to this episode. Now, if that's true, if the decisions we made in the past led us to this present moment, then the decisions we're making right now are leading us to our future. We're literally living our future's past. Make different decisions. Make different choices. Start living a routine that creates your future.
Wow. Mic drop moment right there. I love it. I love this stuff.
That was really powerful when that was first explained to me. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and I actually have that book. Tiny Habits. I have that.
Yeah,
that one along with Atomic Habits.
Yes,
it was an amazing revelation for me.
I Tiny Habits is in my top 3.
Yeah,
they actually clear references Tiny Habits in Atomic Habits.
In Atomic Habits, yep. Yeah, good stuff, man. I'm so glad we connected, Neil. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for just being on the program today and for sharing just these truth bombs that you dropped. I really appreciate that, and look forward to getting this episode out there to the world.
I'm here to help people. This is all things that have helped me, and it's my responsibility to pay that forward. It's my responsibility to pass it along.
So if a first responder wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can contact me directly. I'm on Instagram, Neil Schoepp, Facebook, Neil Schoepp. You'll have all those links. My email, neil@neilschoepp.com. That's my direct email. I'm giving Conrad a link to a download for the AIR method. The AIR, we didn't talk about the triple F, which is confirming how the thought is benefiting us or not benefiting us. Conrad will have that. You guys can download that. You can reach out to me. You can send me a DM. I'm readily available. And I will help you. Like, I came from the trenches. I did 24 years in New York City. I will help you in any way I can.
I appreciate that. We'll be sure to put all those links in the show notes so people can access that directly. And I had no idea you were from New York City. Your accent didn't reveal that at all.
I don't hear an accent, but I get pegged all the time.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate having you on the program. Thank you so much for all of this.
It was great being here, Conrad. I really did enjoy the conversation. Go out there and crush it, guys.
That was Neil Schoepp. From real-life stories on the fire ground to practical tools like the AIR method, I hope this episode inspires you to take control of your mindset and live more intentionally. Hey, if you found value in today's show, please share it with a colleague or a friend. And don't forget to download Neil's free AIR method guide in the show notes. And hey, if this conversation impacted you, would you do me a favor? Share this episode with a friend who might need to hear it. Leave a review, subscribe to the show, and help us continue spreading these life-giving messages to all who serve. And please remember that you are not alone. And if you need someone to talk to and don't know where you can turn, you can always dial 988 for help. Until next time, be well, take care of yourself and those around you, and go out and do something great in the world.